Okay. So ERP, as we all know, stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. So when we are talking about enterprise resource planning, each and every enterprise, whether it is in service industry or it's a manufacturing industry or if it's a banking, whatever industry it could be, you will have various resources. And the resources of any industry is, I would say, let me, so this is my, I would say, board for me. Okay, so resources of any industry is one, material. Okay, so machines, material, money, right? And what is the last one? Management. Okay, so these are called 5Ms. So these are the tools for any industry, I would say resources for any industry. So how effectively or how best you use all these resources in order to maximize your productivity and hence the profitability is what does matters to the company or to any organization. So to minimize the cost or to minimize the effort and to maximize the productivity, you will be using a software tool that what we call it as ERP. So ERP by definition, you can say this way, it's a ERP software facilitates the flow of information among all the processes of an organization's supply chain from procure to pay, including accounting, human resources, right? So your ERP software should facilitate the flow of information across all the processes of an organization. Whether, for example, a new employee joined in the organization, his employee information or the personal details will be added in HR system. It could be PeopleSoft, it could be something else. The data that is maintained in the HR system needs to get reflected in accounts payable module for the month-end salary payment to the employee. So therefore, the data which is maintained in the HR system, it could be HR module if we are talking about SAP as tool, or you might use a different tool. Okay, you might use a different tool. Even from that tool, the HR data, the people's data, or the personal data of a new employee or an existing employee needs to be available for the AP module, accounts payable module or accounts team for the salary to be paid by end of every month. That's one example. The other way is you might have a system for managing the vendors, a separate system for managing the vendors where all your vendor master data might have been created or maintained, right? So vendor data is there in one system, but you will be using a different tool or a different system for purchasing. So when you raise a purchase order and when it is submitted to the potential supplier, once it delivers the material, right, you will be doing goods receipt and an invoice needs to be paid. So therefore, at the time of payment, the data that needs to be looked at is vendor's bank account. Where is it maintained? It's maintained in the vendor management tool, a third-party system. So therefore, that vendor master data that is maintained in the third-party system needs to be available for your SAP system for the accounts payable team to pay to the vendor with reference to the invoice posted with reference to a PO. So this flow of information, what we are talking about is whether it is across the departments or across the systems, the flow of information should be very, very smooth and it should flow without losing any piece of information. And that's where your ERP facilitates all this possibility. So ERP software eliminates the common problem of multiple incompatible software systems and databases in use in the departments or functional areas of many corporations. Like I said, just an example, if you have multiple systems, there is bound to be an integration issues. Like I said, vendor management system, a third-party system, accounts payable system is your SAP system. In case if the data is not smooth, okay, or for whatever reasons, if the data is not getting transmitted properly to SAP or from SAP to that vendor management tool, you will have problems. So compatibility issues. If you use one system, an ERP system, which can facilitate all these functionalities, you will not lose any data. Therefore, the compatibility issues can be avoided. For example, if I have to say, sometime back, JD Edwards was acquired by PeopleSoft. PeopleSoft in turn was acquired by Oracle. But till today, PeopleSoft applications are not running on Oracle platform. That's because of the compatibility issues. So Oracle, though PeopleSoft is Oracle's product right now, Oracle is still having problems managing PeopleSoft applications on Oracle platform. So that's the reason they are still selling PeopleSoft as a separate application. That's the compatibility problems that I was referring to. Whereas with SAP, you don't have such problems. Everything is SAP's module. Everything was uh, built on top of SAP R3 architecture, so you won't have any problems. So therefore, with one integrated comprehensive system, which could be distributed internationally with one database whose processes run more smoothly with up-to-date information availability throughout the corporation. That means if you use one system, I mean, avoid using one system for what you call vendor management, another system for accounts payable, one more system for purchasing. Instead of using those many systems, if you use only one system, which should be comprehensively integrated across all modules and which can be distributed across geographies, which should contain only one database. Therefore, everybody can see the same set of information throughout the organization. Whether you could be CEO or a regional manager or an individual user who created a purchasing document or an invoice document, everybody will see the same set of a same piece of information if the database is only single database. Now, based on the scope of various applications which were available in the ERP market, the ERP solutions have been segregated broadly into two areas. One is high-end ERP solutions. Second one is mid-range ERP solutions. In the high-end ERP solutions, I've added SAP, Oracle, and PeopleSoft. The one which is maintained in the brackets, parenthesis, is called programming language. ABAP/4 stands for Advanced Business Application Programming Language, 4th generation. Similarly, for Oracle, it has got its own language, what we call the structured query language. PeopleSoft has got its own language. Same is the case with mid-range applications like JD Advanced, Bond, Ramco, so on and so forth. Right? So if you look at it, SAP has got various applications in all the modules. I would say all the functional areas. Oracle is very strong in finance, but poor in manufacturing. Same as PeopleSoft is very good at HR, and the rest of the applications it doesn't have the strong base. JD Edwards is a good manufacturing tool. Similarly, Barn is having good manufacturing capabilities and bit of financial capabilities, but they don't have applications in all the areas. I guess rest of the folks have joined. So Sundarrao Garu and Lakshmi, welcome to the group. Can you hear me? Lakshmi and Sundarrao. Okay, so I guess still they have some issues. Let them get clarified. All right. Now, SAP as ERP. So where does SAP fits in the ERP system? We will have another slide. If you could look at it, if this is my ERP wheel, you could see for each of the folk, I've got different departments. Let's say you take any industry or any organization, you will have all these departments like inventory department, production department, accounting, human resource, delivery, that is what you call distribution, business intelligence, reporting, sales, engineering, so on and so forth. So the flow of information across all these departments should be smooth. Only then the business will run smooth. Otherwise, if you don't have proper communication between your purchasing department and inventory department, or your sales department and delivery department, you will have lots of problems. You don't know what sales department has promised to its customers. So therefore, delivery department cannot or will not be able to deliver the goods to the respective customers. Similarly, if you don't have proper information about purchasing to the inventory management, or if you don't have information about the material availability in the stores, then the purchasing department will not be able to procure the materials. So here the inference is, though these departments, they work independently, but they are interconnected. So you have to have one tool which should be able to facilitate this interconnectivity across the departments. Sometimes I call this as department, sometimes I call it as a functional area, sometimes I call it as a process area, or sometimes it is module, if I have to say from SAP perspective, right? So you need to have an ERP tool which will facilitate the flow of information across all these departments, though they work independently, right? So let's try to understand what is SAP. As you know, SAP is a product of SAP AG company. AG stands for limited in German language. So it was founded by 5 German engineers who used to work in IBM in the 1970s. I mean to say in 71. So they established this company in 1971 in a place called Mannheim, and then their initial vision while developing or establishing this company was to develop a standard application software for real-time business processing. What do you mean by real-time business processing? Real-time business processing is nothing but your system should be capable enough to process the data that's created just a minute ago, just a second ago. That is what we call it as real-time business processing. It's not that your system should be capable of processing historical data. No. Apart from processing historical data, whatever data that you have maintained or someone else has maintained just a few seconds ago, that needs to be available for processing. Okay, when I say processing, you might be doing some action on that particular data. So that's their vision when they started this company. SAP was market leader in industrial enterprise application area. Its market share is about 30% in ERP. SAP has got presence in more than 50 countries. That means SAP has got its own offices in more than 50 countries. SAP's employee strength is 50 plus. Who is joined? Is this Sundara or Lakshmi? Hello?
Hello?
Sundara Garani?
హలో అవునండి సార్ జస్ట్ ఇప్పుడు ఓపెన్ అయింది.
All right, not a problem. At last you are there. All right. So we have just started the SAP demo session, which I've already gone through, Andy. So and then SAP has got more than 1 lakh customers, more than 100,000 customers across 120 countries, with more than 10 million users. As you might be knowing, SAP license fee is user based. Based on number of users that you wanted to have, based on that only SAP charges the customers. So that's the reason I did specify the user strength. SAP's market share in India is about 60%, 600 new installations per month across the world. That's the SAP's strength. So SAP strength, why everybody goes for SAP? Why not the other ERP software tools? The basic reason why everybody goes for SAP is SAP's strength lies in its high degree of integration, mainly for large global corporations. Okay, the reason, like I said, the integration between various modules, or the integration between one company located in UK, another company located in US, maybe some other company located in India. So the cross-company integration, or the cross-module integration, or the cross-processes integration is very, very tight and secure. That's the reason for SAP's success. Significant presence in global Fortune 500 companies means all the Fortune 500 companies, a majority of them are running their business on SAP systems. Okay, so let's try to understand what is SAP and its evolution. Okay, I should have given you what is SAP definition or the full form of SAP. SAP stands for Systems, Applications and Products in Data Processing. That's the full form of SAP. Okay, so in the next half an hour, we will try to understand what are those systems, what applications SAP uses, and what are the products that are available from SAP. So like I said, when they, after establishing the company in 1971, in 1972 they have developed a software application. They name it as SAP R1. Stands for R1 stands for real-time single-tier architecture. In those 70s, in 70s and 80s, yeah, I think in 70s only, uh, we don't have this much of technology. We don't have this what we call as client server technology available. So those days, everything. If some companies' business is running on computer, it means there used to be only one computer, or each and every computer that the company uses, they will have all the applications, all the databases, etc. It means the current client server technology was not there. So therefore, they named it as SAP R1. It was implemented, SAP R1 was implemented in a tractor manufacturing company, but that was a failure. So SAP's first attempt was failure. So based on the lesson that they have learned in that failed attempt, they have modified their application and they have added few more features, and they have released next version in 1975. They named it as SAP R2. Okay, so during that point of time, they had financial applications, sales and distribution, and of course inventory management related applications. In 1975, this R2, SAP R2 was implemented for an American chemical manufacturing company called ICI Chemicals. So the first successful SAP implementation is for ICI Chemicals. That was in 1975. So since 1975, SAP is keep on, adding new features to the existing applications, or they are either modifying or enhancing the existing applications. As you can see here, these are the various releases which SAP has done since 92. Why I kept 92? That's because of R3 version which we have been currently using. Right? So between 1975 and 1993, SAP has added few more applications. SAP has modified some of its applications, and then keep on releasing like that. So in between 1975 to 1993, as you might be knowing, those late 70s and 80s, or even 90s also, those were the days where there is a boom for IBM mainframes. So mainframes means what? They are nothing but mainframes is a software on which the business used to run. So SAP, what they did was during these years, okay, SAP has developed the SAP applications to run parallelly along with mainframe applications on mainframe computers. And then this this has been continued up to 1993. Then in 1993, SAP has modified the architecture of its applications, and then they come up with a new architecture called SAP R3, real-time three-tier architecture. So this is further, because of the further enhancements happened in the client-server technology. So since 1993 until today, as you can see here, these are the releases. 1992 SAP R3 version 1, 1993 same year release 2, release 3, like that SAP introduced its versions into the market. The most recent version available right now is SAP R3, what we call it as ECC 6.0, enhancement pack 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 has been mentioned here, but there is a sixth enhancement pack which was released into the market for the customers, and we are actually upgrading our system to enhancement pack 6 right now. So, and then like this they have, that's how the SAP was evaluated, right? So now, as you could see here, until ECC 6.0, SAP has modified so many things, like SAP R3 460, then SAP R3 4.7, SAP after 4. I mean, since 4.7 they started this enterprise version. Means everything is component. So it means if you want ECC, ECC is just a component, server component. If you want SRM, it's just another server component. If you want SCM, supply chain management, another component of SAP. So this component object or component version has been made from SAP version 4.7 onwards. Even after 4.7 release also, year after release, SAP introduced these new components. ECC is 5.0, 6.0. So after 6.0, SAP said no more versions, means there will not be any ECC 7.0, but instead of that, we let us release patches. Like Windows, Microsoft releases patches. Similarly, SAP also started releasing, or rather, followed that approach. ECC 6.0, Enhancement Pack 1 contains certain functionalities. Enhancement Pack 2 contains additional functionalities. Enhancement Pack 5 contains few more additional functionalities, and it removes all the bugs available in the previous versions. So that's how the SAP has been evaluated. Now, we were discussing about the architecture. So this is what is meant by R3 architecture, right? So you will have 3 layers, what we call it as a presentation layer, an application layer, and a database layer. I'll just give you an example. Probably I would have used the same example even in the class earlier. For example, we all use Gmail account or Yahoo account, mail accounts, right? So we access our mail account from our machine, laptop or desktop, right? So once we go with, for example, let me show you here. Just a second. Let's say if I have to access my Yahoo Messenger, I'll just double click it, right? So this is what we call it as a presentation layer. See, Yahoo Messenger, is it available? You see here, this is what we call it as a GUI, graphical user interface. Whatever the component responsible for adding or displaying the screen, that's all I wanted on my machine. When I go with user and password and say sign in, it will log into the Yahoo Messenger application, which would have been there in the Yahoo server. Where is Yahoo server located? I don't mind wherever it is located. It would be located in UK or it would have been located in US, doesn't matter. So therefore, what I'm trying to say here is, in the client layer or the presentation layer, where people like you and me will be sitting, okay, we will have user IDs. So when I instantiated Yahoo Messenger, a GUI screen, the login screen has appeared. That login screen page only available, or the login application only is installed on my machine. So once I give the user ID and password, it looks for the validation application for the user ID and password in the Yahoo Messenger. That Yahoo Messenger is one application available in the Yahoo server. So you could see in the presentation layer, which contains only the GUI components, whereas the application layer is installed either on one or multiple machines. They are installed on the servers. Similarly, in the database layer, you will have where the database which actually stores the data. So as an end user, if I wish to log into Yahoo Messenger, you see here I enter my user ID and password. So therefore, that user ID and password is validated in the Yahoo server, which would have been there in UK or US or some other place. If it is valid, then the system will allow me to log into Yahoo Messenger, and then from there I can either, if I wish to chat, I can chat with somebody, or if I wish to, give a call via VoIP, I can do so. Whatever I wanted to do, I can do it. All the data, for example, chatting or VoIP calls, etc., they will get saved in database, Yahoo server. So that database is this one. Similarly, in SAP, whether you are an end user as working as a buyer or a consultant or someone else, all the data that you enter from here gets processed in the respective applications, and that application data will get saved in one database. Okay, because it is one database, though this guy has created a purchase order, if somebody wanted to see, he can see the same data as what he displayed or what he maintained. Okay, now let's try to understand the functionality of SAP R3. Like I said, SAP contains suite of applications. SAP has got applications in financial accounting, controlling, asset management, human resource, workflow, project systems, MM, WM, SD, PP, PM, QM, warehouse management, so on and so forth. You name any application, SAP has got a solution for that. So, so that's the reason SAP is very, very robust and SAP scope is very large. Therefore, SAP was part of high-end ERP solution. Now, like I said, you see here, if I use SAP, as I said, SAP has got solutions in inventory management, process area. SAP has got solutions in production solution. It has got solutions in accounts payable and receivables. It has got solutions in HR, delivery, BI, sales, everywhere. Each of the modules SAP has got solution. So therefore, and also SAP R3 allows the integration of all of a company's all the business operations in an overall system for planning, controlling, and monitoring. With SAP, these integrations is also possible. If they want to run independently, that is also possible. Okay, so now you could see here, as I said, SAP stands for Systems, Applications, and Products. You see, these are systems: client systems, application system, database system. Okay, applications means these are various applications: financial applications, logistical applications, HR applications, so on and so forth. Now let's discuss the products. SAP stands for Systems, Applications, and Products. Now I'm going to discuss about the products. Product means these products have been built on top of the existing core applications or core modules. Okay, there are various new dimensional products available. To start with, supply chain management, SAP's APO, Advanced Planner and Optimizer, of course, which is part of SCM, and also Business Information Warehouse, or simply BW, Business Warehouse, Supplier Relationship Management, Corporate Finance Management, Customer Relationship Management, Knowledge Warehouse, Strategic Enterprise Management, Business One, something called FSCM, Financial Supply Chain Management, Treasury Management, Transportation Management. All these things, these are all new dimensional products. Okay, on top of it, you have got something called IS, industry specific tools, like IS Oil, IS Retail, this IS Banking, IS Automobile. These are also called industry specific solutions. These are also being referred as products. Okay, mysap.com and internet, like, as you know, nowadays everybody is providing or enabling the applications to port onto the internet. Without internet enabling on the certain application, it is handicapped. So SAP don't want to lag behind its competitors. So what they did was SAP, changed the architecture technically. This is from the technical perspective, okay, which you will not be knowing it unless you are an ABAPer or an administrator, system administrator. You will not be seeing this one. So what SAP thought was, if we don't provide internet enability for the SAP applications, we might lag behind competitors. So keep that in mind. SAP has introduced something called SAP netweaver technology, which is basically provides internet enability to existing SAP applications. Okay, with internet enability, you can mold a certain application. You can personalize it basically. Okay, let's say Venkat as a buyer, he will have his own personal settings. Maybe somebody else will have his own personal settings. Some other person will have his or her own personal settings, which can be possible with internet enability. Right. There is something called tools for configuring R3. We will have various tools. Once you are in the implementation project, you may have to work with multiple tools. The first and foremost is IMG, Implementation Guide. Whether you are an MM consultant, SD consultant, an FICO, or whether you are doing in SAP ECC system, or whether you are working in SRM system, or you are working in SCM system, every system will have IMG, Implementation Guide, and that's the tool where you will be doing configuring as per the requirements taken from the customer. Then there is something called SAP Office, which basically stores, edits the various documents which we use it for maintaining information for a project. So this is something like a project management tool. Okay, so it contains all the information. Then there is something called Business Navigator, which provides the graphical views of the various business processes, like process flow diagrams. Then there is something called R3 Analyzer, which is basically again a tool which the developers uses, like which standard program has got which features, where to tweak, where is the enhancement spot to modify certain thing in the coding and stuff like that. They use this R3 Analyzer. And then there is one more thing called as reference model. This reference model contains the best practices, the samples. Okay, so therefore you can pick and choose a certain process and make modifications to those processes, process according to your customer requirement. By doing this, you need not have to develop an application right from the scratch. Whatever can be retained from the standard process, you retain it. Whatever needs to be changed, modified, you do it. That's where this reference model is used. And then there is something called accelerated SAP, which is again a tool which is basically meant for implementation projects. And then there is something called Solution Manager. That's also a different tool which we can use it for multiple purposes, for configuration purpose, for documentation purpose, for communication with SAP on the issues, the issues in the standard programs, or even you can use it as a supporting tool. Once the product goes live, you have to have some support tool with which you can submit the ticket to the supporting team. So for all these purposes, we use, in case if you want to use a SAP tool, which is Solution Manager. Right. So we have discussed one reason for SAP success. The strength of SAP lies in its high degree of integration. You see few more advantages of reasons for SAP. One is security. Information maintained in SAP is client-based information, technically client, so therefore it is highly secure. Integration, like I said, across modules or across systems is very, very tight, so therefore this is another advantage or reason. And then enterprise-wide solutions. It's not just SAP provides solutions for material management or for finance. SAP does provide solutions for virtually all the what you call the process areas or the modules or the applications that a customer will have. So enterprise-wide applications. Once you buy SAP, if you want to implement SAP in all the process areas, you can do so. If, for example, HR module, if you are not implementing with SAP, you wanted to go with PeopleSoft, that's your management decision. But SAP does have got SAP HR. You can actually use HR. So likewise, enterprise-wide applications or enterprise-wide solutions are possible with SAP. Then there is something called best business practices. Let's say you are implementing SAP for a banking company, ICICI. See, in banking, you have got different MNCs, local companies, etc. State Bank of India, ICICI Bank, Citibank, okay, Standard Chartered Bank, whatever banks. When I'm implementing a process, as you might be knowing, for example, one application called deposit money into the savings account, right? See, this is application, deposit money into the savings account. You will have options by cash, by check, by wire transfer, etc., etc. That's a feature, right? But deposition of money into the savings account is an application which would have been there in each of the bank. And how they deposit money, you will have different steps. Assume 10 steps. Out of 10 steps, maybe 5, 6, 7 would have been common. You have to fill the deposit slip. That is one common phenomena. That slip needs to be given it to the accounting clerk. The accounting clerk will check the details, verifies it. If it corrects, then he stamps it and give it to you. Then probably after an hour or few minutes, you will actually enter the details into your bank, into your account, and then an email or a message needs to be sent to the customer, right? So all these things, these are various process steps. Maybe bank to bank, the process steps may vary, but how much percentage? Maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20%. So the 20% deviation, instead of building an application with right from scratch, you copy the existing one. Whatever is not suiting, you remove that one, add your own piece of code. That's the best practice. So SAP gives you such kinds of options, either for hello, did somebody join newly? Can you guys hear me? Hello? I'm not getting any response from any of you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. This
Yeah.
is Ra.
Yes.
Yes, sir. This is Radhika. I'm able to hear you.
All right, thank you. Okay, similarly, SAP does support multiple currencies. SAP has got support for multilingual. So it supports more than, I would say, I think 40 languages or more than 150 currencies. So therefore, these are all the reasons for SAP's success. Now, better integration, like what the wheel which we have seen a couple of screens ago. Now you see here, these are, you take any industry, whether it is a banking or a manufacturing or a service, any industry will have various departments. For example, sales, customers, inventory, production, purchasing, so on and so forth. These departments, either they may work independently or they may work in communication with other departments. Whether they are working independently or not, the communication has to flow between these two, or rather all these departments. I mean to say, cross application communication or cross module communication or cross process area communication or information exchange is mandatory for any company to work successfully. So with SAP, this integration is quite good. That's what I wanted to say here. Right. Then there is something called impact analysis. You see here, let's say this is just a pond of water. Okay, you assume it as a swimming pool, right? So you have got various paper boats thrown into the swimming pool. Okay, this FI, SD, MM, PM, PP, etc. These are modules, and these are nothing but the what you call paper boards. Now you ask a small child to throw a stone into the standstill water. What does it happen? What will happen? Waves that get generated, and these waves, when it hits these paper boards get, you know, they get fluctuated. So that means what? Paper boards getting affected. I'm sorry. Any questions? So let's try to apply the same thing to SAP. Let's say you have an up and running system with all these modules FI, SD, MM, PM, PP, SD, CO, etc., etc. Now you make a change to a process. You, as a functional consultant, you need to understand what is the impact of this change in other applications. Okay, simply throwing a stone is nothing but making a change to the existing process. You need to identify where exactly and in which places it is affecting. That's your responsibility. You have to do that. SAP has got such facilities. And then these are various advantages. You can see integration of various modules is possible, quite good, in fact, faster and cheaper, because you have got a process model where more than 1,000 ready-made processes are available. You adopt a process according to your customer requirement and then modify according to your customer requirements. You need not have to build the application right from the scratch. That's the advantage, and therefore it is faster and cheaper. What we call it as RAD, Rapid Application Development Tool. And then real-time reporting. Like I said, the PO created just now can be used for reporting purpose. Multiple languages. It supports more than 40 plus languages and currencies. Up 200 plus currencies can support. More than 225 countries are supported in SAP. With reduced manpower, you can process the same application with same or increased efficiency. So these are various advantages of SAP. Now let's try to make you understand what are our three components. There will be three components, if I have to say. Look at here. The first one is an application component, where all these applications are used by the end users. Master data team create master data objects. The end users like buyers create purchase orders, like that is transactional data. But to create master data or to create transactional data, what you require? You require ABAP programs. Without program, nobody can create a master data or a transactional data. But who will create these things? ABAP programs are created by the developers. But programs, okay, that's fine. Programs that's created by the developers. So what is the basis for program to work? You have to have something called organizational structure to be available. You have to set up some key data elements. You have to set up some functionality configuration, or what we call it as process configurations, needs to be built. All these things were built by the functional consultants. So therefore, as you can see here, unless you have an organization structure or unless you have key data elements and functional configuration, ABAP programs will not work. If there are no ABAP programs, master data, neither transactional data nor master data can be maintained, right? So these are the benefits, or the what you call the process flow for working with the SAP components. Let me try to help you understand what is customization versus configuration. See, customization is nothing but adopting the customer requirements to, or adopting software to suit the customer requirements or to suit the customer specific needs. This customization can be done by two means: one by configuration, second one is by coding. Okay, so configuration means what? This is configuration. The yellow strip that you see here below is called configuration. This can be done by either by configuration, customization, or you can do this configuration or by coding also. Coding means what? ABAP programming, the middle one. Sometimes it is both also, right? So either by configuration or by coding. Coding requires big effort because you have to code everything right from the scratch. Whereas configuration is not like that. Okay, so you will have some few mouse clicks, check boxes needs to be checked, some key data elements needs to be selected. That's how the configuration is done. Right, finally the scope of the SAP, you could see there is a big circle. The outer circle, assume it, this represents a particular, the outer circle represents all the industries. The inner one, the inner circle represents a specific industry. For example, automobile industry. Okay, automobile. This the inner circle is representing automobile industry. Means automobile industry has got these many applications to run. Right now, you see here this particular elliptical shape. This is a specific company requirements. For example, in case of automobile industry, assume it is a company called General Motors, or let's say Ford. Okay, so this yellow elliptical shape is the requirements of a particular company called Ford Motors. Now you could see here, majority of the part of this ellipse has been covered in the inner circle. That means what? Majority of the things can be done by standard SAP programs. You just have to identify what is meant for which purpose. So accordingly, you configure your system. Now you could see there is something in between between these two circles. The one that is in between these two circles is the what we call it as gap. How to minimize this gap? Okay, you can either minimize this gap by simply writing your own piece of code. That is what we call it as development. Right, sometimes the development may not be a possibility, or the customer may not want to replace a certain application which has been running for quite a number of years. So these pieces, the pending pieces, which you could see, this is non-SAP application where the customer do not want to replace, or SAP genuinely might not have any solution for that particular piece. So if you can leave this piece apart, you could see here more than 95% of percent has been covered in SAP. So that's what we call it as SAP solution scope. I wanted to go with this role of a function consultant towards the end. So I'll keep this for some time. Any questions on this part from anybody? Give me another half an hour. I will be able to complete the demo session. I guess this is not functional. Silence. Can I assume no questions from anybody? Okay. Now, look at here. So, this is what we call as a supply chain image. You see here on one extreme you have got one vendor, on the other extreme you have got a consumer. So, in this linear diagram, if I have to say, there is something called inbound logistics and there is also something called outbound logistics. It means all the activities, logistical activities performed on the incoming material is called inbound logistics, and all the activities that you perform on the outgoing material is called outbound logistics. So the combination of both inbound and outbound logistics is nothing but supply chain management. So now within the supply chain, where does MM fits in? And that's what our is. So you see here, vendor is located on the extreme end from whom you procure the material. So if you want to procure the material, you have got something called MM purchasing. So this is where it fits in. Once you raise a purchase order, vendor delivers the material to you. Once the material is delivered, you keep it in-house. You keep it in what we call stores, okay, which is nothing but a warehouse. Once you have the material available in the warehouse, warehouse, you have to give it for shop floor for manufacturing it. Okay, so once the product is manufactured, it will come back to the go down where packaging etc. will be done. Once it is packed, it will be shipped and transported and then distributed to a wholesaler. From a wholesaler, it will be delivered to a retail customer. From a retail customer, it will be sold to an end user where the product dies. Okay, so sorry, in between you have got different modules, different applications to work with. So here is your SAP MM, which is integrated with vendor management. And also there are a few more things which I have not specified here, that we will see it in the next couple of screens. So if somebody asks you what is SAP MM all about, you can say in one sentence, MM application module supports the day-to-day activities of procurement and inventory functions carried out for a particular organization. Okay, so it basically deals with the day-to-day activities of inventory, purchasing, so on and so forth. So now let's try to understand what are the topics that we are going to cover in SAP MM. We will discuss about architecture. Okay, the same architecture, what is single tier, two tier, three tier, in which tier, which application components will be available, which one will be used for communication purpose. So all these things we discuss it in the first class. Okay, and also we also discuss about the system landscape. What is system landscape, what is development system, what is quality assurance system, what is production or life system, where the transport is triggered, from where it should move, what is transport request, what is customizing request, what is workbench request. All these things we will discuss it in the next class, the first class. Then we will discuss about organization structure. What is an organization structure? What is its importance? Why do we require an organization structure? What are the components available within the organization structure? Which organization element is responsible or a main? What is the main organization element for finance? Main organization element for MM, purchasing, main organization element for MM, inventory, so on and so forth. We discuss it. We will create one complete organization structure. We take one company whose business you are aware of it, and then we set up one company code, 2-3 plants, so on and so forth. That's your second chapter. Once you create an organization structure, we will be dealing with the master data. Again, master data can be broadly divided into financial master data, logistics master data. Wherever possible, we will copy the financial master data from the existing system, from which the client from which we copy our company code, and so on and so forth. Whereas logistic master data, we will create our own. Then, we will discuss in detail about material master, various configuration aspects of material master. We will discuss about vendor master, what is vendor master, where the data gets saved, what are the levels. Okay, so what are the additional levels where the data gets saved, what is partner function, vendor partner function. So all these things, vendor management, all these things we will do it here in the vendor master. Then we go with MM overview, like what do we mean by external procurement, what is in-house production, so which document is required for which purpose, how to create those documents, all those things we will discuss it in MM overview. And then there is something called external procurement, or what we call it as purchasing cycle. Okay, so purchasing cycle, this is end to end. What we call it as P to pay, purchase to procure. So we discuss about this entire procurement cycle, various documents that we create, various document types that we use, and individual documents' basic purpose. All these things we will discuss it in the procurement cycle. Then we discuss about what we call the individual objects within the procurement cycle, whether it is purchase requisition or a purchase order or RFQ or a bid or any invitation. We will just go and discuss all those objects. So once we complete the external procurement, we will go with definition and configurations of various purchasing documents that we use. To start with, purchasing info record, RFQ, request for quotation, quotation itself, purchase order, contract, scheduling agreement, quota arrangement, so on and so forth. There will be many more documents. So all these documents we will review, we will configure, and we work with them. Once we complete the purchasing, we work with inventory management. We discuss about the overall picture of inventory management, and then we go with each of the subtopics within inventory management. To start with goods receipt, what is goods receipt, types of goods receipt, planned goods receipt, unplanned goods receipt with reference to PO, goods receipt with reference to PO, right? So all these things we will discuss it. And then similarly, goods issues, planned issues, unplanned issues, similarly transfer posting, types of transfer postings, and then transfer posting at plant level, at storage location level, or at company code level. So all these things we will discuss it in inventory management. And also there is something called physical inventory. We discuss about physical inventory as well. Okay, various types of physical inventory processes, like so those things, and then the physical inventory process itself. So all these things we will discuss it. And then there is something called invoice verification. Once the vendor delivers the material, you have to you have to post the invoice. So while posting invoice, what are the things that you are going to check it, how to verify those things, right? Is there any tolerances, or are there any blocks for this invoice? If there are any blocks, how to avoid it, how to release the blocks, right? So all these things we will discuss it in invoice verification. And then there is something called special procurement chapter, which basically contains 5 special procurement types. Something called consignment, subcontracting, pipeline, okay, third party sales order processing, and then stock transport order. Okay, so we go with each of these 5 topics. And then material valuation. Okay, so this is very, very critical. Material valuation, important chapter. So this is where you define how a certain process in inventory management, or how a certain process in invoice verification will affect the valuation of the material. So this will be covered in detail from the automatic account assignment perspective. So, and also we will discuss various processes affecting material valuation, whether it is goods receipt or invoice receipt or something else. So we will discuss about these processes. And then there is something called valuation and account determination. This is what we call it as automatic account determination. So here we discuss about the various automatic account determination techniques that we use. And then there is something called split valuation, valuating the same material or evaluating the substocks of same material differently. That is what we call the split valuation. So even this also we will discuss about this. And then there is something called classification. Classification is again of multiple types: material classification, batch classification, vendor classification, customer classification, PO classification, so on and so forth. So we discuss material classification, and then we go with, after classification, we go with batch management. Okay, so without classification, batch management will not work. Without batch management, there will be so many things which may not be possible. So we will discuss in detail about the classification and batch management. So within batch management, we have got various topics like batch validity, shelf life expiration date, batch status management, etc., etc. So all these things from the batch management perspective, we discuss it. And then there is something called CBP or MBP, material requirement planning or consumption based planning. This is from the MM perspective, how to use this one, what are the settings required, what are the configurations required, okay, how to generate an order proposal automatically. So all these things we will discuss it in CBP, consumption based planning. Then we will see how an MRP works, we will see the service flows, we will see the integration points when you work with MM, what you call uh, um, the evaluation, okay, that is called MMFI integration. Similarly, when you are working with MRP, consumption based planning, you will be integrating between MM module with PP module. Similarly, when you are adding, when you are working with the special procurement scenario called third party sales or processing, you will be working with MM with SD. Okay, so all these points will be covered as and when they come into picture. We will discuss about ASAP methodology in and out about ASAP methodology, various phases, what needs to be implemented in which phase, etc., and who will be carrying out the activity. So all these things we will discuss about what we call the ASAP methodology. And finally, let's try to understand the role of a functional guide. The role of any functional consultant is first and foremost role is customizing the product, customizing the respective business case or a business area or application area, and making sure that the system reacts in a manner according to the constraints of this case. Okay, so therefore you have to first understand. Okay, so you have to first understand what is the customer requirement. Accordingly, you will configure, you will make your system. Then there is something called developments, right? Sorry, documents, and the settings and prepares proper guidelines. For example, you may be a consultant for today, and nobody is sure that whether you will be available after a week or not. There is every possibility that the same person may not be available. So therefore, for that purpose, each and every product documentation needs to be maintained with proper settings. Okay, that is being used as a training manual for the new folks. So therefore, this needs to be created. Then takes care that proper training is given to the end users and that the system is usable. It's not that whether it's been used in it's working properly in quality assurance but not working in live system. No, that's not the way. So therefore, wherever you are going with it, it should the application should run properly. Then takes care that proper training is given to the users and the system is usable, performing appropriately. It means, let's say when you are here, system is working. When you are not there, system will not work. That's not the way that you should set up. So therefore, you should be in a position to take care of proper training is given to the end user so that they will not mistakes, and also system should be in a usable condition. Go live assistance for the technical team. Basically, go live means you have to specify the table and the function. You have to specify the table and the data functionality, what data needs to be copied from the table. So therefore, I mean, the go live activity will be performed by the system administration team, where they require the coordination or they require the help of yours, because a feed coming from old system should come and sit into a new feed. So that's where you require your functional expertise for the go live. Similarly, the main duty of the consultant is to transfer external know-how to the client. It's not the manpower that counts, but intelligence, understanding of the processes, the feeling for defects, and general harmonies. So, you as a consultant, you will be able to transfer the knowledge on what you have set up, how you have set up, what are the potential issues that you might encounter. So all these things, because you are a functional guy, you must be knowing bits and pieces at least. So therefore you have to record them, you have to build the chart of these things. And once you complete the MM module, various jobs available like functional contact or consultant, buyer, purchasing assistant role, stores in charge, master data maintenance. So various jobs are already available. Okay, so that's all I have with me on the presentation. Now let me just quickly show you the the syllabus or the content. Which one is the latest one? This one. Maybe let me go with it. Okay, as you could see here, we will go with classification and batch management, material requirement. Okay, instead of this, let me show you the Word file, I think, which contains a better, which gives you a better picture. I thought I should be having the Word file also. MM syllabus. Okay, so MM overview, once again we will go with MM overview, like a system landscape, navigation in SAP, project structure. That's the first class, and then second class onwards we'll go with the maintenance of organization structure. It may take two days roughly, and then general settings, what you need to maintain in the general settings, and then general settings specific for MM module, that also we will do, and then the master data maintenance, material master, vendor master. Okay, so you could see here, I'll share all these files to you, and then in the purchasing we'll go with each of these areas: purchasing cycle, purchasing info record, various types of purchasing info records, source list, purchase requisition, purchase order, RFQ, bid invitation, bids. Okay, so various control indicators that we use or control parameters that we use, quotation, outline agreement. Okay, so all these things we will discuss it in the next 2 months session. Okay, I'll forward to everyone about these files. Okay, and finally towards the end, SAP methodology, change request transportation, production support issues, okay, conversion of business requirements into functional specifications, question and answers, okay, system configuration, right? So maybe resume preparation was not there here, so I might help you in resume preparation as well. Okay, so that's all I have. Any questions from anybody? First of all, how do you feel about this? Is this online training? I don't know whether you have attended earlier or not. How do you feel? Um, is it okay? Are you able to see my screen after screen? Is my voice audible? You might have some apprehensions like, classroom training would be better than online training. So whatever apprehensions you might have. So how do you feel it? Is audio audible? I mean, is my voice audible? Is my screen visible to you properly?